What professions do most people consider difficult, but they really aren't? Subscribe to the channel, like it, and leave a comment. This will greatly help the development of the channel. Thank you. Often in IT support, things are quite chill. There were days when I did nothing but play on my phone because there were no tasks. I say often, not always, because some companies like to pile on a bunch of work just to keep you busy. My IT friend was laid off because everything in the company worked smoothly, so the management couldn't understand why they needed him. Everything went smoothly because he set it up that way and handled tech support. You can guess what happened a few weeks after he left. The classic management approach to an IT specialist. Everything is broken. What the hell are we paying you for? Everything works. What the hell are we paying you for? Security, but specifically unarmed security. When I worked in a casino and then in a contract company, the hardest part of my job was the training stage. Security usually works like clockwork unless you're in a bad area. But even then, if you're unarmed, you're just a respected doorman put there to satisfy the insurance company. Even armed guards don't have it that bad, but their responsibility is sometimes more than the average person is willing to take on. My ex was kind of an engineer-architect who made an insane amount of money. He literally did nothing all day. I know this because most of the time, he worked from home and only went to the office when there was a team-building event. He spent his workday playing on PS5 with his laptop nearby. Most of his messages between team members were about personal life. At some point, I realized I had made the wrong choice in life. Lol. I work in finance. It's hard to get the job, but not very hard to do it. The finance sector is hellishly boring stuff. You do the same crap every single day. Some people like predictable routines. 1. Do what I know. 2. Get a decent salary. Dermatology. You just need to remember 6 rules. 1. If it's dry, moisturize it. 2. If it's wet, dry it. 3. If the patient is not using steroids, start them. 4. If they are using steroids, stop them. 5. If you don't know what it is, do a biopsy. 6. If you do know what it is, do a biopsy. It's as simple as that. Of course, one of the most difficult fields seems to be IT. Surely all the humanities people imagine numbers like in the Matrix, which they need to figure out. But actually, with proper training and effort, no profession will seem difficult. The main thing is where and for whom to study. I know that among all programmers, front-end developers are especially valued. Front-end is one of the 2 main areas of development. Such programmers create interactive elements, buttons, slides, menus, to simplify the use of websites and applications. Most often, such developers work with the JavaScript programming language. It is used in 97% of all web applications. Data analysis. You just need to be good at SQL, Excel, and common sense. I make a 6-figure salary at this job and am shocked that I get paid so much. Many office jobs are hard to get, but easy to keep. I remember getting my first office job after a long period in service. I couldn't believe how easy it was. I replaced someone who retired. He had a full-time job with appropriate workload. I finished a week's work by mid-Tuesday. My boss didn't care. In the end, I had 3-hour lunches. At some point, I got so bored that I started asking for more work. I became the hardest working and most productive guy on any team I worked on. After 10 years of such work, I noticed that even though I was pulling the load, I was paid the same or sometimes less than my teammates. Sure, they called me a handsome guy, but I'd rather have been paid a bonus and given a raise instead of a certificate and a coffee mug. A guy that first called my mentor at the time said, "Bro, take your foot off the gas." Not all the way, but just enough to keep up. Press the gas when the boss is looking. My former neighbor was an air traffic controller. He said it was a very simple job, like playing a video game. I was surprised, and I'm an engineer. It's not that hard of a job if you have the right mindset. I always tell people that 90% of this job is experience, so it's unlikely that someone can do it well from day one. It feels like corporate management's job is to just throw wrenches at the people below them. The best manager, in my experience, is the one who just leaves you alone and lets you do your job. I think it's a pretty low bar when doing nothing is considered good. Most professions are quite simple if you are naturally inclined to that kind of work. If not, they will be difficult for you. Exactly. My husband works in public relations. He says his job is easy. Writing a press release or talking to reporters is very simple, but it stresses me out a lot. Garbage collector, it's not the dirty, grueling job it used to be, except for rare, usually seasonal exceptions. And you'll be pleasantly surprised by the pay. If we're talking about the guy driving the truck, it's fine, but the guy who has to manually sort the garbage on the belt has it tough. Most professions are quite simple if you are naturally inclined to that kind of work. If not, they will be difficult for you. Exactly. My husband works in public relations. He says his job is easy. Writing a press release or talking to reporters is very simple, but it stresses me out a lot. I have a friend who is a pilot. He often says his job isn't that hard. My father, a retired airline captain, says this job is 95% boredom and 5% terror. This thread describes all the jobs that basically come down to just being around when something inevitably goes wrong. I genuinely believe that most office jobs can be done by 15-year-olds. The hardest part is getting the job, as you usually have to compete with 1,000 other people who also want to get in. The hardest part is not the job, but the office politics. That 15-year-old will become a sacrificial lamb. What an accurate but nasty truth. I have an office job, and it's damn simple, but office politics are exhausting. If I know a toxic colleague will be away during the holidays, I immediately feel like I'll enjoy working. Colleagues are the hardest part of my job. Being a 911 dispatcher is incredibly simple, and I get paid way too much money for it. Maybe this job isn't hard in terms of labor or technical skills, but isn't it extremely stressful at times? Only when you're new and unsure of what you're doing. But that's true for any new job. Construction. It's tough for about 2 weeks until your body/mind adjusts to the job. But just like anyone needs to adapt to a new job or hobby, it's a shame that so many people are scared of construction for this reason. The problem with construction is that it takes a toll on your body. No matter how tough the job is, I'm absolutely sure that construction workers should be paid well enough to retire young, because they will not be able to continue doing it for long. I believe that the higher the salary, the easier the job. Generally, wages depend on how hard it is to get the job, not how hard it actually is. Film critic. Supposedly, you need to understand movies deeply, but sometimes it seems like all you need to say is, "The book was better," and that's it. I know people who studied film in school and then became video editors or something like that. They are much more critical of movies. They do it in more detail than most critics I see. Sometimes I wonder how film critics manage to keep their jobs. Airline pilot. For some reason, people think that to become a pilot, you need to be a genius in several sciences. Although it requires some effort and training, flying a plane is not that difficult. The only difficulty is making decisions in challenging situations. I can't really answer this question because I constantly find that the job is much harder than I hoped. Are there any real rocket scientists here who can talk about their profession? It would be hilarious if the classic comparison turned out to be wrong. Considering that the Mars rover crashed because scientists didn't convert units from imperial to metric, I'd say their job is probably as hard as we think. Meanwhile, as an occupational therapist, I'm busting my ass, helping patients, and filling out a ton of paperwork, begging for a raise. I don't understand how people make so much money doing so little and not straining. Congratulations, you've figured out how life works. There are many professions that fall into this category, but the difference is that in many of these easy professions, you can only make one mistake. Mistakes can be either catastrophic or fatal. So the tasks may be simple, but you get paid for vigilance, focus, and the ability to perform the task at the same level over and over again. In my opinion, this is the difference between an easy, low-paying job and an easy, high-paying job. In the former, if you make a mistake, no one dies. IT sphere. I wouldn't say it's a sexy job. It requires some training to get into this field, but once you're in, it's all good. I've seen many people who just mess around at work. Most of the time, they just move the mouse to keep their online status active, but they don't do anything special. It depends on what IT position she is talking about. Everyone thinks an IT guy is the one who comes and fixes your computer, but IT is a very broad concept. An IT job can involve programming, handling support tickets, working on various projects, and much more. Truck driver. After about a month, you feel like you're driving any other pickup, and for the entire time you're driving, you're just sitting and listening to whatever you want. It's really cool. My father is a truck driver. It sounds simple, but IMO, in reality, it's not that easy for him. He's never home. He only comes home when he has a day off, maybe once a week. He works 14 hours every day and switches with another driver. My stepfather always tells me that being a pharmacist is incredibly easy, but I think he's just very smart, and everything is easy for him. I work in software development. People often ask me if it's a difficult job, and I say it depends more on what kind of person you are. Ask any software engineer about their personal project, and they'll have at least one answer ready. In short, to be good at software engineering, you must really enjoy it. Industrial programming, automation, robots, etc. Maybe that's true if we're talking about a basic high level. Yes, the concepts are quite similar, but once we get into specific industries and try to understand the details, we realize that we have decades of knowledge to master, to become a good specialist. I work in chemical production automation. We have people who have specialized in very specific areas of automation for a long time, and it's not for nothing. Programming, daily support, hardware, electrical work, networks, MES system integration, instruments, optimization. All of this can be specifically distributed among teams because it's often impossible for one person to learn all of this in a career. Thank you for watching. Don't forget to like and watch other videos. We create new content every day for you.